Well, we're live.
All right, good, good. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We appreciate you guys watching. This is episode 29. We have a very cool special guest on this episode. Before we get into the introductions, we're just gonna go ahead and read the Bible verse that we do every week. Uh, this week it's gonna be Romans 3:23, and I'm gonna put it in the comments post right now. All right, and it says Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And I really like that verse because that tell us that we're not perfect. We always gonna make mistake. We always gonna do things wrong. And no matter what you do, God is always there for you. All you have to do is ask. All right. So with that being said, let's do a quick intro. Starting with David and go down the line. We have a very cool special guest. Just go ahead and mute the video. If you got the video on, just mute it. Before we get into the introductions, we're just gonna go ahead and. You good, David?
I'm good now. Yeah, I was on another. I didn't have realize that screen was open. Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead and do your intro, please.
Well, hey there, everybody. I'm David. My YouTube channel is D. Wilhoit Kentucky Guns and Fun. Just try to do shooting videos, family-friendly videos of all sorts of stuff that I enjoy. That's kind of what the description says. It's just stuff that I really like doing. Appreciate it if you'd come over and check out my channel and like, share, and subscribe.
Cool, cool, cool. Skinny medic.
Hey, I'm Skinny Medic. I post medical-related, prepping, in general related videos on my YouTube channel. Just trying to get everybody more prepared, more self-sufficient.
All right, cool. Let's jump in Ted first.
I'm Ted Owens. I am one of the primary administrators on the AMFAW Channel. I prepper by necessity in South Louisiana, a shooter by history, a former soldier, and a contractor to a major oil company now, a safety contractor, which is an awesome job now. I don't have to get out there and hurt myself or anybody else. So I'm liking that, and so that's me.
I just saw your comment, so I'm kind of laughing on the side. I think this is the longest introduction you have done, Ted. I want to point that out. Usually you're pretty quick.
Fat guy on YouTube.
Yeah. And we got Guns and Gear on Target training. We appreciate you coming, sir. You got an awesome channel. We all love it. You do really good training. And I gotta say, before you do your intro, one of the things that I like about your channel is that you do training related to what really is going to happen, like teaching people how to use guns, teaching how to shoot, things like that. A lot of times I see YouTube channels here, we were talking about it, that they're teaching tactics that regular civilians don't need to know that. So definitely appreciate your channel. I learned a lot from some of the techniques that you've been teaching. So if you can, just go ahead and do your intro.
Sure. Well, first of all, many thanks for inviting me to spend a bit of time with you and your viewers. Also, I want to thank you and the rest of the vets on the channel for your service for the country. I can't ever thank you guys enough. Got a lot of guys out there, men and women, who have put in the time, and they make it safe for the rest of the civilians out there. So that's the number one thing I wanted to say first. So yeah, my channel is Guns, Gear, and On-Target Training. We do a whole lot of different things, everything from doing reviews, really, of any firearm or gear I can get my hands on. I love to shoot and have been shooting for years. And then the second part that we do is we try to give people some practical tips on training, and whether it be fundamentals of grip, stance, front sight, just how do you manage that stuff, to some of the other things, like how do you shoot out of a car, how do you present your gun while seated in a car and do it safely. So our focus is really educational on the one hand, and then secondly, just sharing I think a common passion that you guys clearly have for firearms safety, and for education.
Very cool. And if you guys haven't subscribed, if you're not subscribed to his channel, I put the link in the description box, and I also put the link for the website, so you guys could go into the website and see the the training and the classes coming up, and prices and all that good stuff. So tell us how you came into the whole YouTube channel and making YouTube videos. I know we've been learning how to making videos is a challenge.
Sure. Well, it was interesting. A couple of years ago, I had a couple of people say to me, I was giving them some basic instruction. They said, you seem to be able to speak relatively well. You seem to be able to convey a thought without losing your mind, and you seem to know how to shoot. You have some relatively decent skills. Why don't you start doing YouTube videos? And I thought, well, why not? It's a good reason to get out to the range. And once you you possess enough humility to recognize that what you do on camera is there for all times, you kind of get over your ego. And so I just had the opportunity to do that, and I started making the YouTube channels probably about 4 years ago. And at the time, I remember when I was first doing it, I'd be thrilled if I got 50 views in the course of a week or 2 weeks, and over a period of time, we've been blessed by the fact that our subscribers come back and they watch and they share it with folks, and we try, and I know you guys do the same thing. When you get a subscriber who writes a question, I simply try to take the time and respond to that question, and people ask us and they say, well, hey, how do I develop dry practice? What do you do? Well, we make a video about that. Someone says, hey, have you ever compared this gun and that gun? And you give us your thoughts. So really, the success, we're up to over 19,000 subscribers, which I'm really grateful for. Again, that's not me. That's because of the subscribers that participate. We've had over 4 million views on the channel. So we've got, a fair amount of people who seem to like what we're doing, and again, I'm a blessed individual. I have a great family, and my wife is the one who really deserves the credit, because she lets me go away most weekends to make these videos and shoot my guns. And none of this would happen if I didn't have her covering my six on the home front and letting me get out and shoot the videos and shoot the firearms.
Yeah, I kind of freak out when you started doing videos, and then eventually people are actually watching you, and you're starting to get, I don't know, 100, 200, 300 views, and you're like, wow, people are actually watching,
right.
People are actually listening. It's kind of scary.
Sure.
But,
it's definitely humbling, the fact that that many people across the world are watching your videos, that want to watch your videos.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, again, I feel blessed. I'm a fortunate person in that people watch it, and if people don't watch it, there's obviously nothing there. I'd probably still be out there because I love to shoot and I love to train. I'm just really passionate about shooting, and I can't imagine not doing it. So even if I weren't making videos, I'd still be out there shooting and ultimately practicing and training, because you can own firearms, and a lot of guys I know are collectors, and that's awesome. But if you want to be proficient with any skill, you have to practice, and you have to develop a consistency in your practice to be able to do whatever it is you're doing under stress. And you need to get to the point where you don't think about what you're doing. You can actually use whatever that tool is, and whether that's a car, whether it's a bicycle, or whatever else, you still have to have some level of proficiency. So for me, the training and getting out there is really the fun. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. When your heart rate hits 120 and your adrenaline starts pumping, you're going to go back to that muscle memory that you've always trained for. So.
Absolutely, and it's interesting because we often get students who will come to our classes, and they've shot and they put a lot of rounds downrange, but they've never been stress tested. And you guys have done military service. I mean, you know what that's like. But a lot of civilians have never actually had the simple pressure of either someone yelling at them, right, when they're trying to do something, which can throw your mind off pretty quickly, or simply run a shot timer and say, hey, you've got to complete this drill in 3 seconds. And the life of your family depends on your ability to get these combat effective hits in 3 seconds. all of a sudden their proficiency just takes a nosedive because they've never had to do it under pressure. And so we try to induce those situations in a controlled manner so that people have the experience that you military guys have had of actually trying to push yourself under pressure so that you can figure out where your breaking point is. So where's the point where you actually have failed? And again, better to do that in a testing environment than to be in a life and death situation where you literally fall apart. And everybody that I know, whether they're law enforcement, special operator guys, or just civilians who have really high skills, all say the same thing. And they say that we revert to the lowest level of training under stress. So that means if I've only picked up my firearm and slow fired 1 shot per second from a bench, and I've never ever actually presented my gun from my concealed carry, whatever my rig is from my setup, and be able to get hits on target, it's two very, very different things. And one of the things, you guys know, having no doubt been in combat and seen some of this stuff, is that when rounds are coming at you, very different than standing on a static range shooting paper. And one of the things that, I've been fortunate enough to do some simulation training with law enforcement and got to be a role player and got to be the bad guy who was, putting rounds, at them, and they're putting rounds at me. And I can tell you, as soon as it was go, and as soon as guns were pointed at me and they were shooting and I was shooting, I was seeing two things. I was seeing them and I was seeing my front sight. And the only reason I was seeing my front sight is because my mantra, whenever I shoot, is front sight, trigger press, trigger prep. And so that's exactly what happened. And I remember I saw the gun, I came out, and I started putting hits on target, putting hits on those guys. They had a significant advantage in terms of there were 16 of them and 4 of us bad guys.
They don't play fair.
Yeah, they don't play fair, which was awesome. So the training was fantastic, but again, you revert to your lowest level of training. I had a Type 1 malfunction in one of the sim guns I was running, and I didn't even think about it. It was just tap, rock, right back on target. And what you find, again, stress testing, if you haven't stress tested yourself in a controlled training environment, it's unrealistic to expect you will be able to get that level of proficiency if someone is shooting at you or you're trying to protect your family. So I'm a big advocate of training. And I tell people all the time, I don't care if you train with me, I don't care who you go to, train with someone, but really work on your skills, find out where your performance drops off, and then have a plan every time you go to the range. So you got 50 rounds, how am I going to use those 50 rounds? If I've got 300 rounds, what am I going to shoot at? I'm a big advocate from a training standpoint of marksmanship. Most of my students who come for the first time are shocked and they say, Seth, we're shooting at 3 yards. I said, yep, we sure are. When you can put 5 hits in, a 1-inch area, all sort of touching, we'll back off to 5. But we're going to stay at 3 yards, at least for the first, hour or so of our class, really working that front sight, trigger press, trigger prep. And once people figure that out, and they're like, oh, I wish someone would have told me to shoot at short distances, because I've been standing at 25 yards with a 38 snubby, and I'm not hitting anything. And I said, well, first of all, 38 snubby is really not intended to be shot at that distance. And secondly, if you want to develop that trigger control and sight pitching, you've got to start at close ranges. So that, that's some of the stuff that I think we figure out as shooters. Like when I tell many students, they say, how do you figure out to do this? And I said, well, I spent thousands of dollars missing a lot. And then I figured out I'd rather spend a little bit of money on some good training and try to do it right. And once I did that, I was amazed at how much better that training investment paid than just throwing rounds downrange.
Got a good question from the viewers. Edge 40-6 4006 wants to know, what is your everyday carry?
Good question. I carry the M&P Shield. So I really, in 9mm, I really like that gun. I have carried a number of different guns over the years. Carried, a Glock 26. Carried a Smith & Wesson revolver 640, Smith & Wesson bodyguard, so a number of different guns. But I have to say, for the last 2 years, I've been carrying the Smith as an everyday carry. And I just think it is, for me, and I've got relatively small hands, but it really fits great in my hands. And I figure I find it's a reasonable capacity in terms of 7+1 or 8+1, and then an extra 8-round magazine. My feeling is that what is most important isn't the brand of the gun or the caliber of the gun, rather it's your ability to deploy that firearm under stress. So I to some degree, I'm agnostic about specific carry guns. People say, what's the right one? And I said, well, the one you have with you and the one you can run safely and get hits on target. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what I think matters.
I did a IDPA fun shoot this past weekend, and it seems like lately we're trying to do at the end of the match, the people that want to stay around. I mean, you've got your gun that you run and match type stuff, but that's not really your everyday carry gun. So we do a round at the very end of just our actual carry guns.
That's great.
And so, I've found that, that's real fun, because you'll see, I mean, people aren't quite as proficient. I mean, they're not
Don't I know it? That's a great point.
Yeah, I think too that I mean, I don't know when people go to your class exactly what to do, but a lot of guys like to take training, and they show up there with combat low and all this gear that they don't really use. So I think it's critical when you do the training, you utilize the gear that you use every day, so you could create that muscle memory. If you use an inside the waist holster, take that inside the waist holster to the training, because I mean, one of the last classes that I took, I remember the instructor saying that it takes over 3,000 times to gain that muscle memory. And we were doing some, arm techniques and all this stuff, and we actually went outside and we did it over 3,000 times, because they wanted to teach us muscle memory. I think we got it at the end of the day.
Sure, there's no doubt, and I don't know who came up with this number, but there's a very famous quote that says, to become an expert at anything, it takes about 10,000 hours of doing that activity. So I think your point is very well taken, that you want to train with what you carry. But what we try to do when we do our training is we recognize that many shooters don't even have kind of what I would consider basic proficiency on a standard full-size gun. So we try to do in the initial classes is really say, hey, get a full-size gun, and we're going to work on an outside-the-waistband holster to work with you to really develop a level of confidence and proficiency so you can do what you need to do. Then, as people progress, we really make that transition and say, okay, what are you really going to carry, and what are you actually going to use, and how is that going to be concealed, and those kinds of things. What often happens is you go to a gun store and someone brand new says, yeah, gee, I really want a gun, and someone says, well, buy this Scandium, 640, 357 revolver. It's super light, and it'll be perfect. Well, the person goes out there, they fire one round, and it hurts so bad, they're never going to practice again. Or, a lot of our students are women that are coming to us for the first time, and their boyfriend or whoever says, yeah, shoot my 40, my Glock 27 here at 40. It's awesome. And so, the woman goes out there and she shoots it and she hates it. And so she doesn't want to shoot again. So we really encourage people to run a full-size gun initially. And the other reason for that is I've got a longer sight radius. In most cases, I've got larger ability to get my hands around the gun, often a better magazine release. I've got an easier gun to manipulate in terms of loading and unloading. So the advantage of using that full-size gun, and then after they've developed the proficiency, transitioning to whatever they're carrying. The other thing about shooting our classes is one of the reasons I started the company was I've done a lot of training, and again, I'm really blessed because I've been able to do that. Often you'll go to a class and you'll hear the instructor talk for half the class. And you go to this class to learn, intermediate to advanced shooting and shoot 300 rounds in the course of 8 hours. And frankly, that drives me nuts. So I said, when I start this company, I want to make sure that we balance instruction with a focus on shooting. So in our first class, our first defensive pistol class, or kind of our basic class, we'll shoot 450 to 500 rounds. In our intermediate class, we'll shoot 800 rounds in the course of that day. And again, the reason of that is to give the people, to your point, the muscle memory of doing these repetitions again and again and again. Specifically, presentations from holster. Get the gun up, see the front sight, press the trigger, prep the trigger, right? Scan, assess, holster, the gun goes back, right? Do it again. And you get, if people do enough presentations, all of a sudden they gain that level of comfort and confidence, so that once you increase the stress, or you go down on the size of the gun. I mean, I think we all agree that the smaller the gun, the harder it is to shoot accurately, unless you're just point shooting at 2 yards. But once we get out to 7 or 10 yards, shooting that small snubby or that small handgun is more challenging. I'm much more accurate with my M&P 5-inch Pro than I am with my M&P Shield. Now, I practice a lot with the Shield, but I have to say it takes a lot of discipline with the smaller guns. So again, we try to have a logical process as we do that.
Yeah, you make good points, because I went shooting with my wife, and she started shooting the M&P Shield, and I mean, she was all over the target. And she told me straight out, I don't want this Shield. Give me back my Glock 19.
Right.
That's her EDC / concealed carry.
Right.
And yeah, and she took that Glock 19 and she made I'm talking about an inch hole in the paper.
Perfect.
And that was perfect example. When she was shooting the Shield, I was kind of like, what's going on? And then she went into the Glock and she took care of business. So I was like, yeah, continue carrying the Glock.
Right. I really am a big fan. Again, this is all dependent on what clothes you wear and your environment and everything else. But as big a gun as you could reasonably carry for a whole lot of reasons. And I think that the Glock or any of the mid-sized striker-fired guns are really good. And it's interesting because some of my favorite people in terms of training are women, because often women don't have any head trash thinking they have to be perfect, So you work with a woman shooter and you say, hey, here's what I want you to do with your grip, here's what I want you to do with your stance, see the front sight, press the trigger slowly back up along the axis of the bore. And they're like, okay. So often we shoot these classes and we'll have 4 or 5 women in there, and the women are putting these little teeny groups together. Now they may not be shooting as fast, but in terms of precision accuracy, they're just nailing the guys, and they're there with their boyfriends or their husbands, and their husbands are getting all upset, and they're coming up to me and they say, well, what are you telling her? I said, the same thing I'm telling you, dude. Man, grip the gun, nice slow trigger press, focus on the front sight, get your hits, and don't worry about anything else other than you just getting a hit,
Okay, got another question.
I was watching GY6 made a vid earlier, and he was talking about when you talk with people about firearms that you should kind of go to the earliest level of training, and they'll quickly let you know if they don't need to know what you're talking about. But a lot of people, just in anything, they might not want to ask that question for fear of, and especially in something like this, there shouldn't be any fear of asking a question. But I'm afraid that there are some people that might not ask a question for fear of looking unaware or unknowledgeable. And so as we talk with people, I think it's good to start at an earlier, go back to the basics. I mean, I'm 47. I started shooting 40 years ago. So I've had a little bit of time around it.
Yeah.
And I might take things for granted, but when I talk with people about it, I try to, start with the very basics of, hey, here's how you hold it, here's what you do with it. When I give it to you, you make sure it's safe just like I did before I gave it to you. That's just part of what we do.
For sure.
So good question from the chat box again, and I'm trying to keep those folks as involved and engaged because they're following you pretty intently, it looks like. So have 2 questions, and the first one I'll hit you with is, do you carry a +1 base plate on your EDC?
I do. I do. I like the 8-round capacity in the magazine. It's also a little bit bigger to grasp onto, and I don't feel that it makes a significant difference in the concealability. I carry the gun in two positions. One, at a 4 o'clock inside the waistband holster, or at a 2 o'clock appendix carry. And again, this is not, I'm not recommending everyone go out and, get an appendix carry holster to really think about that and train with it. But I really like that setup. So for me, yes, my gun normally has an 8-round magazine in it, and then I've got an 8-round mag in a carrier on my other side.
So the second question was, hey guys, please talk about AKs. Which brand do you own, and which brands do you recommend?
Oh man, I love AKs. I own a couple of AKs. I own an SAR-1, which Romanian version with the canted gas block, which goes back 20 years or more, and that thing has had tens of thousands of rounds through it, and it's still cranking. I love it. I've got an Arsenal Las Vegas in 7.62 with side folder. I've got an Arsenal Las Vegas in 5.45 by 39, and I've got a Century Arms Yugo underfolder. So I've got a few different ones. I really, really like the AK platform for its simplicity, its durability, and I think that I'd be hard pressed if I could only have one long gun, from a defensive standpoint, not to choose an AK. I mean, it would be a toss-up between the AK and the AR, but the AK platform is so incredibly durable. And again, unless I have to be a precision sniper, or what your average citizen is going to use it for, at least where I'm living, I don't have really anywhere more than 50 yards distance around my house in this wooded area where I would have a straight shot at 100 yards or something like that. So, those are the 4 AKs that I have, and I'm sure you other guys probably have some favorites on your end too.
I got 2 old slugs I'm going to build from the ground up. I've got a couple of 80% receivers
Nice.
that I've literally got to get to cranking on because I've been kind of sidetracked with other interests, and I got to really get back into the.
I don't even think you know how many guns you have, Ted. I think you lost count already.
Yeah, I've got a few, but there's no, it's like I don't know how to put it. You can't have too many guns. It's like a woman with too many shoes. There's no such thing.
I agree.
Yeah, my wife actually bought a bunch of shoes the other day, and she realized that she bought double. She already had the same pair of shoes, so I thought was kind of fun. So maybe one of this day I buy another Glock 17, and I go like, oh wow, sorry, I didn't realize I had a Glock 17.
Right, it's the same one.
And there is nothing in my gun safe that I won't shoot. I don't have a single gun in there that's a safe queen. I do have one I'm reluctant to shoot, and if for no other reason than it has some historical value to it, and I don't want to diminish it, but it is in pristine condition. It's as new. It's a 1962 Colt National Match 1911.
Wow,
and,
nice.
And beautiful gun. It was actually used on the by a 50-year Marine Corps Sergeant Major. He was a 3-war Marine, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam.
Wow.
He shot on the Marine Corps pistol team, and this is the gun he used on that pistol team. And
Wow.
a very dear friend of mine, his father and this Sergeant Major served together. His father was an officer, and they served together through Vietnam. And when the Sergeant Major died, that gun was willed to my friend's dad. When my friend's dad died, it was willed to him, and he and himself was a 4 combat tour Marine in Afghanistan and Iraq, infantry guy, Bronze Star winner. I mean, in himself, he's just a hardcore, hard-charging Mondo Marine, and he knew that kind of stuff meant something to me.
That's great.
So he inherited it from his father, and him and another friend of mine literally walked up to me and said, "Hey, enjoy this. We know it means something to you."
Wow.
And it didn't charge me a nickel for it, and it is probably the most cherished gun in my collection. So I say I can shoot it, absolutely can shoot it. I don't know if I will. It's one of those white glove guns that I'm afraid to.
Man, that's awesome.
So Expert Survival Tips ask, what gun would be good for home defense, also for survival outdoor that you could hunt with? And
yeah, well, again, I think it depends on a lot of things. First of all, what's the climate? What's the environment you're in? When you say, home defense, what do you mean by that? Are you in some location where you got land to protect? What kind of game are you hunting? So all those kinds of things. Quite frankly, lever actions are certainly good options for considering. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a 30-30, right? A lever action 30-30. And some places you can't own the kind of guns that we would consider reasonable for self-defense. So, for me, certainly ARs and AKs are there. I really like that. I have an M1 Garand that goes back with, that's one of those rifles that really can reach out and do some damage.
Yes,
And
sir.
they're incredibly accurate. So, I mean, you could go through a list and say, well, what's the right one? I think what I'm looking for are a couple of things. One, I need to define what I need that firearm for. So what's the mission? Two, what are the conditions I'm going to be, using it in? So, for example, am I in a highly populated urban environment that I need to be concerned with over-penetrating if someone comes in my house and I can't get away and I've hidden and I've done everything and they're coming through my bedroom door now? Do I have to be concerned if I'm firing high-velocity rounds if they're leaving my building, right? So those are some of the things that I think about. Again, as it relates to firearms and calibers, I'm agnostic. It's really, I worry about the guy with one gun, the one guy with one pistol, one revolver, one rifle who is an expert at it. Versus someone maybe like me who loves everything and tries to have a little bit of everything, and maybe I'm okay with everything, but I'm not the expert. So again, I would start with the mission. What's the mission you're defining it for? When you're talking about game, what's the size of that game? 30 caliber rounds, so a 7.62 by 39 and AK. Small animals, deer. That round would work for that. SKS, heck, I think an SKS is a great self-defense weapon. And again, 7.62 by 39, intermediate cartridge, that will certainly work well for that, for home defense. Again, it depends. As it relates to home defense, one of the things that, and I'm sure you guys hear it a lot, is people talk about all the things they're going to do. And my philosophy and the philosophy that we teach involves the following three things. One, we want to avoid conflict, right? So if I can run away from that fight, I'm running away. I'm not telling you guys what to do. I'm telling you what I would do. So number one, I'd run away. I'd rather be the lover than a fighter any day. Number two, I want to hide if I can. I simply do not want to engage someone if I have a choice, right? And if I can hide and they leave, awesome. Number three is fight. If I have no choice and I have to defend my family or myself and I'm in fear for my life, I'm going to do what I have to do to stop, neutralize the threat. But that being said, there's nothing in my house that is so valuable that I'm going to come down and confront someone to get into a fight with them. My kids are all grown. They're out of the house. It's just my wife and me. Someone's coming through my front door. I'm hunkering down in my room with my long gun, with my sidearm, with a good flashlight, with my cell phone, and I'm dialing 911.
I agree with you 100%. We had this exact same conversation on this chat several chats back, and I don't know that I would kill somebody over a flat screen TV. I think it's better to let them go on before I pull the trigger on them. They breach the when I retreat, I'm doing that. That's defensive. I'm going to pull back. When they breach that, then I just assume they have ill intent. And
Absolutely.
I'm going to protect my wife, of course. My kids are grown. I pity somebody that jumps in and goes into one of these bedrooms with these full-grown boys I got at home. It's going to be a cat fight. But as far
Different,
as
like you said, if you're sitting there watching the television and they bust the door in, then they
that's
might
a different animal.
might have walked into what they didn't. I mean, but
I'd be scared of David. He has a backpack back there. I don't even know what he's doing. He has like a bug out. Like, do you have some information that we don't? Can you please pass it?
He's ready
to bug out.
He's got his bug out bag ready. He's geared up and ready to. He's gonna nut up or shut up.
Yeah.
He can prove it right there.
Colonel got me scared. I don't know what he's doing.
You should always have your bug out bag ready to go, though.
This is a brand new bug out bag, and I just thought I would have it in the background for aesthetics.
Dramatic effect.
Yeah.
I will tell you, that knife that Gorilla Tavern sent as part of the giveaway, that thing is configured perfectly to ride right there where you got it. I mean, that is an awesome piece of kit right there.
No, I mean, I'm getting it set up nice. There's going to be an entire video series about all the stuff that's inside of it. It's not randomly put together. It's kind of thought out a little bit. So yeah, I can't wait to show it.
I keep saying we're going to have to get over to the Carolinas and do a weekend bug out drill together and get it all on tape.
Yep. Yeah.
In September, there's going to be a preppers camp. I just posted it on my Google and my Facebook. It's September 12th to the 14th. There's going to be a bunch of good guys get together for camping that weekend. There's going to be fire starting, medical. It's a huge list of people who are going to be speaking and stuff. So it's September 12th to the 14th. It's going to be in Saluda, North Carolina.
Oh, cool. I'm here. So that'll be cool.
It's where you're at? It's in your hometown?
Yeah. No. But I mean, I'm in North Carolina, so.
Hey, I'll contribute.
But,
I'll come break out some of the old U.S. Army infantry map reading skills and show them how to navigate by map and compass the hard way.
That was one of the first questions I ever got asked in the Marine Corps when I hit the fleet. A corporal asked me, "How do you read a map, Devil Dog?" And I was like, "I don't know." And yeah, he told me pretty quick.
And I can remember going to Fort Knox with my dad when I was a little kid, and them showing me all the compasses and shooting the flares with the parachutes, and talking about a fun kid.
I got lost in a training event one time, man. We were supposed to be back, and we were like 2 hours lost in the woods, and the whole training event stopped looking for me and my team. It's pretty embarrassing.
I did to get as part of your jungle expert certification, because I spent a lot of time in Central and South America. You have to do a long-range solo land navigation. And so you're in Panama, and they take you out in some triple canopy jungle, and this is where you are. This is where you got to go. See you when you get back. And they leave. And
that's
you
the
gotta
real
have
deal.
your head. Well, that's infantry though. You got to know how that's grunt 101. Is you got to know how to read a map. Because in those days we didn't use a GPS. It was dead reckoning. It was pace count and coordinates and azimuth, and you stayed on that azimuth for so many paces, and you knew where to make your turns and section and resection. And it's a great skill set to have. And I'm afraid we're getting a little bit too technology dependent with these GPS.
Nowadays we got an application, Ted. We put the application and even in Spanish and everything. It's like, take me here.
You got an application until that battery goes dead.
Yeah.
There's a lot of aspects of life that have gotten to where technology seems to sometimes get in the way. Just in work, for example, I had a telephone system problem at work, and so it was real difficult receiving calls, dealing with phone calls, and an elderly gentleman called in. He's like, "Man, I'm just dialing on a landline. This ain't even a cell phone, and you can't make that work." And it's like, well, dude, it's going to a computer and all this and all that. It's not as simple as one, a straight connection. So, but in his mind, you can't make a phone work. And it's just like you're saying, you can't get from point A to point B without something pointing the direction for you.
Yep, you're right, brother. But let me do a quick shout out. There's a bunch of people watching, and we appreciate it. We got Rich 4150. We got Tom, Brian. We got Gary watching. We got Edge 4006. And we got a bunch of guys. We appreciate you guys watching. And to add up, because I'm actually doing a series right now of videos on home defense and security and things like that too. And yeah, I definitely agree. One of the things that I always tell people is to set up some type of safe haven where you're gonna place your family, and set up some type of point, either a fighting position or a place where you have cover and concealment, and that's where you're gonna engage. If someone comes, like I live in a two-story house, if somebody comes up, that's where I'm gonna engage front. So they will have to pass me to get to my family. But definitely, I don't care. Take the computer. I could, like Ted always said, I could replace the computer. I could replace the TV. As a matter of fact, Walmart got TVs now for like $349. So trust me, I could buy another TV. But yeah,
you'll have a new TV by the end of the month when you kill a human being who may be somebody as simple as a stupid kid making a juvenile mistake. I'm not talking about a hardened career, three-time loser ex-con who escaped from the penitentiary just to break into your house. I'm talking about some kid who made a mistake, some 18, 19-year-old, 16-year-old kid who got gassed up by some of those juvenile delinquent friends of his, and talked into doing something that could potentially get him killed.
Yep.
So I'm gonna let him carry that.
It becomes a timing issue for him, Ted. If I'm upstairs and then he walks in,
he's
I'm sitting on the couch and he walks in, then he's got other issues.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If Jesus is going to whisper in his ear, he better have enough sense to listen.
Right. I have two kids in my house, so they can have whatever they want, but I'm going to protect my two kids. And
I agree.
Unfortunately, the way our house is laid out, we have to. My wife and I, if someone broke in, we'd have to come forward down the hallway to get to our children. So that's what my wife and I. We keep a flashlight, extra magazine, and there's a Glock 17 there. And that's our whole thing is to move forward to get to our children. If you want my TV, you want my computer, my whatever, you can have it. But I'm coming forward to protect my children.
Yeah.
If you're standing there, that's going to be an issue.
Do your children know to move to you too if they hear something that goes bump in the night?
They do, yes.
Because so many people don't have conversations with their family about, look, if something happens in this house, I want you to stay put, because if you're running around crazy, I don't know who's who. And luckily, like I said, I've got full-grown boys at home. I got one here for the summer who's we're getting that summer job on before college, and I got one who's getting ready to buy a house, and he's trying to, save as much money as he can before he buys his own place. And luckily, like I said, it would be. I think they'd be better off tangling up with me than they would them guys, because they're big boys, both of them. They're younger than I am. They'll be a little bit harder to hit.
Yeah, I want to say that if you ever get placed in that position, definitely, if you ever find an enemy, criminal, whatever it is, the way to face that is pushing forward and having superior fire. Pretty much overcoming the situation. Fast and furious, but if you could stay in a place and don't have to walk around the house, clearing a house it requires a lot of training and is very, very dangerous. You could be extremely trained or extremely awesome dude, Navy SEAL. You walk inside a house at nighttime in dark time by yourself. Two guys is different, but by yourself is extremely difficult. So many different ways. You got 360 degrees. You got high places, low places, size. And the guy may be hiding. The chances of you getting killed, even though you train, are pretty high.
I do have one more question for Seth before we close out. Give me your take on those Las Vegas shooters here this week that killed those two police officers.
Well, I really don't have enough information other than to say, despicable. I simply can't, as frustrated as we all get with politics and various things that happen, going out and shooting a sworn law officer is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form in my mind. And I don't know enough about the situational awareness of those guys. I don't know how it was prepared. I've got friends on the job. I have great respect for what law enforcement does. And hearing that those guys were literally sitting there eating lunch, and these guys walked up and executed one, and then executed the other one. just made me physically outraged. And then they walked across the street, and apparently an armed civilian confronted them, and they shot him again. I don't know the whole picture, so it's difficult to say. It's one of those situations. People say, "Well, Seth, what would you do?" And I said, "I don't know because I wasn't in that situation, and I don't know. Did the person that they shot, who's licensed to carry, did he give verbal commands? Was he standing in the open? Did he move to cover? I don't know any of those things. So, my feeling continues to be you are going to be forced by your circumstances to make a tough decision as a civilian to do you engage that threat. And I would like to believe that, most people are going to make the right decision for them and for their family. I do know, having done some training with some SWAT guys and been in a force-on-force situation where people don't know, it's not scripted out. What you think you do when you know what's going on is very different from what happens when you don't have the full stuff. Gunfights, particularly unless you're in a staged environment, just don't happen like you think they would. This is not related to that gunfight, but a good friend of mine is a retired dev crew guy with 12 years in the one team that everyone talks about. He was the Master Chief, and one of the things that he talked about repeatedly is often they go on an op, and by the time they got on a chopper, they were into their third contingency plan. Just by the time from the point they were going out. And you military guys, get this.
Yeah, you've got to have contingencies on top of contingencies because it just always seems to go bad.
You just never know.
Something as simple as a misplaced trip flare can really can blow the mission. So.
Oh yeah. You just don't know, and I think that the reality is, unlike what is perpetuated by I think a lot of ignorant people, the chances of us, any one of us, or any average civilian out there, getting involved in a gunfight are less than being struck by lightning. Now, that's not what the media leads you to believe, and that doesn't mean that I'm not prepared to deal with it. But the reality is, it's a very, very small percentage. So, should we train? Absolutely. I've had one flat tire in my entire life, and I've driven, 1 million miles. Now, I still take a spare tire with me every time I go anywhere. My planning is, it might go bad. I'd like to be able to change my tire. And the same thing as it relates to personal protection. Now, there are a lot of things that people don't think about with personal protection. Do they have a good flashlight with them? Do they have, simple, non-lethal tools, whether it's pepper spray or something like that? Do they have a cell phone with them? All these things that are, to us seem pretty practical, of course. But you meet a lot of folks out there who say, yeah, I've got my gun, I'm good to go. I'm like, hey, man, the gun is the last choice. And if I'm going to my gun, I've really screwed up. I've missed the situation. I wasn't paying attention. I put myself in a compromising situation. My verbal commands didn't work.
Yeah, you've missed every opportunity to de-escalate it at that point.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, one final up question to that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think that we also got to be prepared for something going wrong. I mean, you see Marines training for 20 years and they go to combat, and we spend millions of dollars training these guys and they get killed. Why? Right. Because sometimes bad things happen, and no matter how much training you have, you may be eating and some guy comes by the back and shoot you in your head and you're dead. Right. I mean, sometimes
that is exactly what happened. So this shooter couple went across the street to the Walmart, and there was one fatality over there. What happened is from what I'm reading and what I'm seeing is that they had a concealed carry guy that was engaging the male suspect first. He was getting ready to engage that guy. He wasn't aware that there was a couple, that the girl was there, and the girl was behind him with a camouflage, kind of a disguise, pushing a buggy. When she saw the concealed carry guy draw down on her husband, she shot the guy from behind and killed him. He was the only fatality over there, and I believe, even though he unfortunately lost his life in it. He very well, I believe in my heart that he ended that situation because they were engaged at that point. She'd already pulled the trigger. They knew that you know, there's any hope they had of getting away is over with at this point. We've killed 2 cops
That's when
with
they
one
ended
person.
their own. Yeah, they ended their own deal, which is all what the cowards do at the end anyway.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
but you know what? We haven't heard about this guy. I mean, this guy actually was a CCW that actually faced 2 guys with weapons. And to tell you the truth, I don't even know this guy's name. I mean, in my book, this guy is probably a hero that step up and try to stop a situation. Just a basic civilian that step up to stop a situation. We haven't heard about him. Why? Because we all know the media and all that.
The
We never
media,
use
that
that.
doesn't
But
advance the liberal position. No, it's not
So
going
you don't have to look very far. You can go on Facebook right now and look up their names in their hometown, and they pop right up. And I looked at both of these shooters' Facebook profiles yesterday, and they weren't anybody you would have thought was kind of out there. I mean, yeah, they like to wear some costumes, you know what I'm talking about, from time to time, but she was 22 years old. You know, a lot of her Facebook postings are pictures of cats and, you know, these little, you know, cat videos and stuff like that. She's a 22-year-old kid. He was a little bit more sinister looking, I think. You know, he'd had some run-ins with the law, and you know, they'd been thrown out of their apartment for not paying rent and stuff like that. You know, according to the deal there. But I don't know. They didn't have that profile. And I understand they got asked to leave the Bundy Ranch during that standoff out there because he was a felon.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my thing about that is there's bad people out there doing bad things. I mean, the point is, people as men, as whatever person, are you going to take a stand and go and get your CCW, go and get some training? And you know what? Like I said it many times, I refuse to be eating at a mall and some kid that cannot, for some reason, cannot find a girlfriend come and kill my children. I just refuse that. So if that happened, he will find. I mean, he probably gonna hit a wall when he see me.
It's gonna be a hard way to go, ain't it?
It's gonna be a hard way, because I'm just gonna leave it there.
There's a bunch of evil people. I mean, and that's just part of it. I mean, there's no way to stop it. I mean, it takes some good people with better training to stop the evil people with their lack of training. And you know, again, it's the confrontation that typically stops them because they end their own life in the cowardly way of pulling the trigger on themselves.
And the guy that just did it, 2 weeks or a week ago, is a proof that it had nothing to do with firearm. This guy in California killed 2-3 guys with a knife,
right,
ran people over with a car, and then yes, he used a firearm. But the point is that he would have used a rock if he has to. We're gonna kill him. He's gonna use something. So,
he'd have killed him with a broken light bulb, whatever he could have got his hands on. It didn't matter. So, yeah.
So.
All right, so we're at the top of the hour.
Okay, yeah, let's start doing some outros. I appreciate everybody watching. You know, we got a bunch of guys here that always support us. We truly appreciate you guys' support, and we truly appreciate you guys watching. David, you got anything going up in your channel?
I sure do. I've got this bug out bag over this shoulder. Let me get the video the right way. Yeah, I've got some video coming out. I'm going to show that thing going together. That was part of the contest that I won from the AMFAW Channel here a couple, I don't know, month ago at this point. Past that, GY6 is going to send me some RIP ammo that I'm going to shoot through a clear ballistics gel block. That's coming up. I have a
factory tour.
A factory tour that's going to be at this point in time. I guess we'll leave everything, you know, coming out on that. Hopefully this Friday is going to be the factory tour, so the video on that will be to follow. The last thing, I have a police chief that's contacted me and wants me to shoot some flak jackets at a range, and so they can do some video testing, and he's going to allow me to do video and put it on YouTube of that. So all that stuff should be coming up in the next several weeks, I guess, would be the best way to put it.
Okay. Skinny Medic?
Like I said, I just recently, actually last night, got talked with the folks that are doing that prepper camp, so I'm pretty excited about that. It's going to be a full weekend of camping with my wife and 2 kids in September, so we're looking forward to that. So we're going to keep making videos, keep making family hiking videos, keep doing the medical videos, so looking forward to it.
Very, very cool. Ted?
It's just continuing to support the AMFAW channel. We've got a kind of collaboration project going on with David there on his factory tour that I'm stoked to be involved with, and just kind of doing our thing, just kind of perking along. Got some guests lined up in the future that some names that you guys will all know and love. I'm not going to broadcast it right now until I get a hard confirmation on it, but you guys are going to know them when you see them, so stay tuned for that.
Cool, cool. Sir, you got anything to pass?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, huge thank you to AMFA for allowing us this opportunity to speak to some of the folks out there, and really appreciate it. We've got a number of things cranking. The next video we're posting is a comparison between the Glock 17 with the milled out upper for the Trijicon RMR and the M&P core that I've been shooting a lot. And we're going to look and compare those two guns. There's some interesting differences in the M&P, which has been milled to allow multiple types of red dot optics. And as a result, it doesn't have some of the benefits that the Glock has in terms of its placement of the RMR. We've also got some training that'll be happening here up in New Hampshire, and we've got a carbine class coming up at the end of June and another pistol and carbine class coming up in July. So if you're in New Hampshire, check out both our channel and our website. We'll be posting those details. And then finally, just thanks to all the people on YouTube who are supporting firearms rights, and just the passion for this right that we have. If we don't exercise the right and do it responsibly, and do it in a way that is respectful of other people who disagree with us, right? If we don't do that, we're really hurting ourselves. So a huge kudos to all you guys on the AMFAW channel for doing that and keeping the firearms thing moving forward to the next generation.
We've got to exercise our muscles at the polls too.
Point well made.
Absolutely.
Stay respectful. Point well made. Stay respectful, but point well made. Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. I got a couple of things. Got a new Ruger 1022. I'm gonna do a video pretty soon. If you guys haven't checked it out, this year they got the 50-year anniversary, so that's kind of cool because it says 50-year right here in the slide someplace. So I got that coming up. Also, if you haven't checked out EC2C Targets, I'm gonna put a thing in the comment. Go ahead and check out those guys and subscribe to them. They're a pretty new channel and they got some cool targets. And let them know that the AMFAW channel send you guys. Also, if you put Jarhead6, you get a 10% off with those guys. And I'm gonna be doing some reviews too with. We got a pack from militaryluggage.com, so expect to see that on my channel too. Other than that, here's the pack, by the way. Other than that, I expect to see videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. We appreciate you guys watching.
Wait, before we click off, I'm sure that Seth understands that how to close out, because that's our guest responsibility. And while you're sending him that in the chat box, I'll plug something else.
Yeah.
So you guys know that I deal a lot with a local gun dealer down here, the Tri-Parish Police Supply down here in South Louisiana. And he sent me a text that he has got DPMS M4A3s fresh from an overseas contract in stock right now for $500 out the door. You mentioned AMFAW, and he gives you 10% off. So that gun, will be $450, and it's a DPMS AR-15 M4A3. That's the flat top carbine.
It's a great buy.
Yeah, he's got several of them, several other quality ARs for less than $800 in stock, and he also has a used Armalite AR-50 right now. That's that single shot AR-50 A1, 50 cal single shot, with a Leopold Mark IV LRT scope on top of it for $4,500. You mentioned AMFAW, he gives you 10% off of that, so that takes $450 off of that. So pretty good stuff on that, and good stuff all the way around. I'm proud to be associated with those folks.
You good, Ted?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Well, I really didn't tell our guests how to close out, so.
Yeah. So you see the chat I just put up there, Seth? That's all you got to say to finish it out. And it's amateur night at AMFAW, so.
All right. Well, listen, guys. All my friends are warriors.
Thanks for watching, everybody.